This is Super Yacht News with E. Sisman.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It is the 21st of March. We've got some breaking news on a yacht seizure. Another vessel's been seized. In the video I did last night, we talked about a boat called Motor Yacht Axioma, and I was tracking it as it crossed the Atlantic, and I thought it was a little bit unusual because the vessel's destination was Gibraltar, right? Nothing really unusual about that under normal circumstances. Most vessels that cross over from the Caribbean, they stop in Gibraltar to refuel before they go into the Med. However, this particular vessel is owned by a chap called Dmitry Pompiansky, and he is on the EU sanctions list. Now, in the video I did last night, I said that I couldn't find any reference of him being on the UK sanctions list. And of course, Gibraltar being part of the UK, and not part of the EU anymore, I thought, well, maybe he's docking there, or the vessel is docking there because they're not on the UK sanctions list. However, I made a bit of a mistake, and he actually is on the UK sanctions list. Now, that made it even more peculiar because I was watching the vessel approaching Gibraltar. Have some sources who told me that the vessel initially was not listed as being a vessel that was due to arrive in Gibraltar. Other sources informed me that the vessel was supposedly heading to Turkey, via Malta, where the vessel was going to be laid up in Turkey, and all of the crew were going to be let go. In other words, sent home. So it's a bit of a curious story. This is the vessel docked in Gibraltar, and they must have known that the owner of the vessel was under UK and EU sanctions. The vessel arrived in Gibraltar, they let it dock, and then immediately the vessel was boarded by authorities, as you can see in the video footage here, which is from Gibraltar Yachting. And the authorities boarded the vessel, and the vessel was seized. Now, you know the difference between arrested, which is a genuine use, is technically correct use of the word arrested for a vessel. When a vessel is arrested, it means that it is prevented from leaving, prevented from functioning as a vessel, but the crew stay on board. Seizure is when the vessel is physically seized, they take the crew off, and the vessel is seized by the government and it becomes property of the government. That's the effectively simplistic terms of the differences between the two terms. Now, I was told that the vessel had been seized, but I don't know yet if that is an accurate description. But the vessel has been, at the very least, arrested and will not be allowed to leave Gibraltar. So that's a very, very curious turn of events there, because, like I said, I was tracking it and I was expecting it to go to Turkey. So, yeah, unusual. But anyway, the vessel is now arrested in Gibraltar. So the owner, Dmitry Pompiansky, is a 58-year-old Russian, and he's the owner and chairman of a Russian global manufacturer of steel pipes for the oil and gas industry. On the 8th of March, he was put on the EU sanctions, and on the 15th of March, he was added to the UK sanctions. So just a few days ago, he was added. So anyway, keep watching, guys, and I'll update you on that as soon as I know something. All right, on to the next story now. Motor Yacht Solaris, you remember the story of Solaris. We tracked her since she left Barcelona. So she was in Barcelona in refit. She left Barcelona the day before UK sanctions were placed on Roman Abramovich. She went over to Montenegro, arrived in Montenegro, was intending to get fuel, but didn't get fuel, and the vessel, and then the owner, Roman Abramovich, was then added to the EU sanctions list. So the vessel turned around and left. Then we tracked the vessel heading south, heading towards Turkey. And then we talked last night about a curious incident with a oil products tanker, a Russian flag tanker, and it looked like it possibly could have taken on fuel. But I said it was most likely unlikely that they did that because potentially the vessel is uninsured right now. I'm not sure about that because it's a red ensign flagship, and it's potentially had that suspended, or the Lloyd's certification, suspended, not the flag. So it's possible they have no insurance. So very risky maneuver to bunker right up next to an oil tanker on your $500 million vessel when it's uninsured, right? Potentially uninsured. So anyway, the vessel today, the vessel was sailing around the islands in Turkey, and it said scenic cruising on it, on the AIS, but the vessel eventually docked in Bodrum in Turkey. And as you can see from this video footage, there were some Ukrainians who've settled. This is what I was told. There was the person who sent me the footage. The Ukrainians who settled in Turkey were there to meet the vessel, and they tried to prevent the vessel from docking in the marina. So you can see when the guy zooms in here, you can see that there's a little rubber dinghy with a few people in it waving flags, and they are trying to prevent that vessel from docking. And it looks like the bulbous bow of the yacht is right up alongside. And if you look on the port side bridge wing, you can see there's a lot of crew up there, and they're obviously trying not to hit that boat.
I know, this is ship of Abramovich, Russian oligarch. Go away, Russian ship, go away. No war in Ukraine. Слава Україні! Героям слава! Слава нації! Смерть ворогам! No war in Ukraine! No war in Ukraine!
Now, when I looked on AIS later on, it looks like the vessel eventually docked on the other side of the marina. So it looks like on the other side of the jetty, should I say. So it looks like they actually backed up and went around the other side. It's hard to tell from the AIS because it could be slightly off. But I think that's probably what they did because they couldn't get the boat out of the way. So that's yeah. So that boat is now in Bodrum in Turkey, and Eclipse is bringing up the rear, heading by the looks of it in the same direction. So I would imagine maybe tomorrow or the day after she will dock alongside, maybe, unless she's going somewhere else. But I think she's probably heading in the same direction. All right, guys, on another story now. We talked about Motif Ragnar. She's been stuck in Narvik for weeks. She went up there. She was sailing around in Norway for a while, went into Narvik, was boarded by authorities, military as well. The Norwegian military boarded the vessel. They did a search of the vessel. The vessel was then released. However, they've been stuck there ever since because the people effectively arrested the vessel by refusing to sell any fuel to the vessel. The vessel was stuck there for a number of weeks, as we mentioned in a previous video. Well, the news today is that the vessel has been, the government actually intervened. They went to another company further north of Narvik and asked them to bring fuel. And as you can see in the picture here, they've loaded fuel, they've bunkered fuel from those trucks. And I've been told that she'll be leaving Narvik on Wednesday. So I'll be sure to update you on that. And that's pretty much it, guys. The only one other thing that came up today, I noticed, there's an article in the Wall Street Journal that's just been posted today, and it's called Russian Oligarchs' Yachts Hit the High Seas, and it's by a chap called Benoit Faucon. I've probably destroyed the pronunciation of that name. I'll put it up on the screen. Now, if you have been watching my channel for the last couple of weeks and you read this article, it's going to sound very familiar. And that's because effectively every bit of the article has been on my channel over the last couple of weeks, and many of these stories I broke on my channel. And interestingly, the chap who wrote the article actually contacted me. I'll put it up on the screen. He contacted me about 7 or 8 days ago. I think it was the 14th of March. He contacted me and asked me if I could help him with some information. Now, I wrote back to him, but he never contacted me. And then this article came out, and he references in that article my channel, but he doesn't even mention it by name. So yeah, so that's now he's passed that off as his own article. And effectively, if you read that article and you've been watching my channel, you'll see that it's just all of my stories regurgitated into one article. So yeah, a little bit disappointed that the Wall Street Journal would do something like that. But and also the ironic thing is that story is actually behind a paywall. So if you want to read that story on his website or on the Wall Street Journal's website, you have to pay for the privilege. Well, what I would say to that is, just come here and you'll get it all for free. And then in a week's time, it may appear on the Wall Street Journal for a payment. So anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Just one other thing. Just remember that there is a lot of anti-Russian sentiment in the comments, and a lot of anti-Russian sentiment out there right now. And I just want to say that not every Russian is for this war. You remember the woman who went on television, on the state television in Russia, and held up a banner saying no war, and she was risking 15 years in prison by doing that. She did it anyway. So not everybody's for it. So just remember that. And also the crews of these vessels, those guys today on Solaris trying to dock that vessel, they were trying very hard to not hit that vessel, that little rubber boat there with people in it. So just remember that, you know, most of the people out here are just trying to do their jobs. Anyway guys, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye bye.